Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Joy of Teletext Art. I am not Bob Ross, and I hope you can forgive me for that fact. Today, we're going to be a bit more ambitious than last time. This image is going to have quite a bit more detail. However, since this is teletext, it will still be fairly simple. First of all, I'm just going to block in the key details. We're going to make this Mac over here quite large because it's one of the focal points of the image. So he is in a chair. It looks like a very comfortable chair. That'll be black. But in the background there are two elements to this, I think. A brick wall on the left, roughly there, and over here, this window. Come on, this takes a while. They're roughly done. And of course, we need to give more detail to the cat, which will be, well, at the moment it's going to be an amorphous blob. You know, we should make his hand like one of the Mac icon hands, shouldn't we? That would be good. And at the moment, that is the cat. There are its eyes and that's its nose. Yes, it's not going to be photorealistic, but you'd be able to tell that he is a cat. He's actually looking off over there, isn't he? Yeah, of course the cat is gonna be bigger than he is in the source image, but I think everything will. I'm gonna make everything look nice and chunky, and that includes the dude's head. It looks a bit weird yet. It wasn't long ago that I had a haircut like that. I'll have to block in his fringe. There you go. There is, of course, nothing wrong with changing your original marks. It's one of the beauties of teletext art. You can actually go back and change things. And one of the reasons I don't really do much pen and paper art these days, traditional media art, is because I have the luxury of going back and changing things, and sometimes it's too much of a fuss to keep changing stuff on an actual real-life canvas. Again, that's a whole different skill, but it's very linked to the way that you work, or it is with me anyway. I like to try things to see how they work. In painting, that can be a time-consuming process. But here on the computer, you can just change it back within seconds or revert back to a previous state. There is a phone in the background, but we might have to sacrifice that piece of detail. We can make his nose like that. Pointy. It's like a Beano character now. There you go. It looks a bit like a human, doesn't it? It looks enough like a human. On his shoulder there, you can see where the fold in the fabric is, or the stitch in the fabric is. So we can use that as a cheap way of defining where his shoulder is. Yeah? It's a big chunky sweater, much like the chunky sweaters that Mac users would wear in the 90s. Like me, I had one of the biggest sweaters you've ever seen. I looked so silly in it. But it was good for when you were painting, just an old baggy sweater. Of course, I don't wear them now because there's no mess. At least not when making teletext art. This cat has a bit more space to work with now. He clearly doesn't want to be there, though. He wants to be chasing that mouse, or whatever they're waving for it to stay in place. So we have the apple in the background. It's going to be the centerpiece of the image, although it's off to the right. And behind the Mac, we have some skyscrapers. Oh, these are really cool. Yeah, so that will eventually be a nice vaporwavy color in the background. Over here, we have the brick wall. Now we can put entire bricks here if we wish, or we can just hint at the bricks. If you ever read the Beano and the Dandy comics as a kid, or any of those sorts of comics, they would only hint at the bricks in the wall. They wouldn't draw them all. some Western comics, they will sit there and physically draw every brick on the wall. I can imagine us making that wall red. The original image has a very white and cream feel to it, which is very Mac, because Macs are always, or tend to be that color, don't they? Light colors. And we've got a tinge of orange for the sky and the floorboards. This picture frame will be a different color to the wall, I think. Now we come to the challenge of how to block in the wall behind him there. We could carry on doing it like this, but maybe we want to make it look as a little bit as though it's coming towards us. Again, I'm trying to find a cheap way of representing depth, and sometimes the way to do that is have things in the background 1 pixel smaller, like this. Like that. So this bit over here pops out. Right, I think the time has come for us to block some color into this. Wish me luck! What are we gonna do? Are we gonna make it a nice clean white MAC color, uniform across the image? We'll give this dude a Simpsons face. Hey Marge! That episode where Homer went back to the 80s and got a computer. Didn't know how to work it. You remember it, don't you? It's a shame we're losing the bust, really, isn't it? That's a nice part of the image. And the phone too. And the Mac is of course white because it's not yellowed yet. It's not the 2000s yet. And it's not become horribly yellow. And we have the vaporwave background, gradiented. Just realised we've not done any detail on the keyboard. It feels a bit cheap just to have it dithered. But then, like I said, you take the cheap victories where you can get them. How do we create the illusion of keys here, computer keys? I think that's how you should approach these artworks. How do we create the illusion of something? I guess it's the same with cartoons, if you're a cartoonist. There. It's beautiful. Now, of course, the Mac has to be white, but this other stuff down here, all of this stuff down here is also white. Oh, forgot to do his hand. Could we get away with that? It doesn't look like a hand anymore. What happens if we make this wall red, eh? We're losing some of the Apple aesthetic, true, but not sure if it's really working with that color. And so we will make the sky pink. Oh, look at that. It's good, isn't it? Should we make the floor pink too? I mean, we've veered so far away from the light color scheme. We might as well go the whole hog, eh? Is it too dirty now? Is it too dirty? We never carried on working with the cat, did we? It's actually bigger than that. Let's add a bit of light and dark to the cat's fur, a bit of detail. Hiding these codes. There we go. I bet you recognize him, don't you? And, well, if we've got the smiley face on the computer screen, then we need one on his printout, don't we? He's studying the artwork. Haha. Oh, should he be smiling? Should he? He likes the artwork. I'll go away and work on this a little bit, but for today's episode of The Joy of Teletext, we shall leave it there. Here's the final edition of the artwork. I have decided to go with the cleaner colour scheme, remaining faithful to the original photograph, and I've added a few details here and there. You can see that the cat looks a bit more like a cat, the picture looks a bit more like a picture, and the keyboard is a bit larger among a couple of other small things. But I think that's about it, so thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'll see you next time. Sayonara.